Hi everyone, it's Lindy. I'm here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we'd make this cute little turtle parade card using the pivot pop-up dies from Fawn. So let's go ahead and get started. So I went ahead and stamped all my images, but I wanted to show you where they came from. This is the Elphie Selfie set, and we're going to use the birthday cake and the balloon. And then from the costume party, we're going to be using that little bowl of candy. And then the turtle is from the Get Well Before and After set. And the present and the birthday hats are from the Beam Me Up set. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach my dies using some purple tape. And I'm going to run all those through my die cutting machine, and you can see that we have everything stamped and die cut here. So let's go ahead using 177, 133, 723 and my blender pen, and we can color these in. So I'm starting with the lighter green, and then I'm coming in with the darker green, and I'm going to use my blender pen to blend those two colors together. Now I just want to mention these are the Tombow Dual Tip Markers, and they are a water-based marker. So this blender pen is going to easily blend these two colors together. You do want to make sure you clean it off before you start using it. Just make sure you have no ink on it from a prior project. And then I'm just going to pull those colors together, just taking the darker color and kind of pulling it upwards towards the top of the turtle there and blending the two colors together. And also, you see me dabbing off that blender pen. I'm just removing some excess ink so that it doesn't get too dark. And then I'm going to continue to blend. So just remove some color if it starts getting dark. And here I'm coming back in with a little bit more color, and I'm going to blend those together again. So you can continue to do this until you like the final results. Now I'm going to continue doing the same thing, adding the lightest color first and then coming in with the darker. And just pulling this color down now towards the bottom of his little feet there. Keeping it darkest up around the top of the turtle. And then for the little face, I'm going to be adding a little bit of that pinky color just on his cheeks there. And then I'm going to kind of go around it and blend it just very gently around the little cheeks there, just to blend the two colors together slightly. And then here I'm just using the dark color. I'm not adding any highlights or shadowing. I just thought it was simple enough just to color that in. So you can see there that we have that done. And I did all the other four the exact same way. So now using 992 and 977, two shades of brown, I'm going to go ahead and start with the lighter shade, add the darker shade, and then just blend those together. And again, you can see that I'm cleaning off the blender pen in between those colors. Now for the cake, I used 991 for my lighter color. And then for the darker color, I came in with kind of an orangey shade, which is 993. But I didn't think that was enough contrast, so I grabbed the 905, which is more of an orangey tone, a little darker orangey tone, and I'm going to apply that just to the edges and then blend those together. And I did list all of my colors down below. All my marker colors are included in the listing below and also on my blog, so if you're not sure, you can check there. Now this is 946, and I'm just doing the little flames on the candle this way, and 725, which is kind of like a bubble or a hot pink for the candles. Now I didn't list all of these, I didn't show you each of these colors because I'm basically just using that same lime green, the hot pink, that brighter orange color, and the bubblegum pink, and a little bit of yellow here. And then for the bowl, I did use two shades of blue, and that was 451 and 452 to blend that together, which is a really pretty kind of light blue color. So there you can see that's all set. And then again, for the gifts, I'm using that hot pink. All these colors are basically repeated over and over again. Once I decided on my colors, I just stuck with the same grouping of colors. And I did do a little bit of blue here. I did a tiny bit of shading on these packages. I used the lighter green and then kind of like a Kelly green. And then for the bow there, I used like a pale lavender color. And on the balloon, I went back to the yellow and that darker orange just to kind of blend those two together. I'm kind of just pulling the color from each side in towards the center of the balloon, just kind of trying to keep that center part a little bit lighter. And I, off camera, did the little party hats. So now we have everything colored in and we're ready to go here. So now we want to make the pivot portion of the card. And this is called the pivot pop-up. And it looks more complicated than it is. It's actually really simple to do. So those three pieces there, I'm going to be die cutting out of the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, which again is a 100-pound weight. And for the grassy borders, I'm going to be using the new Spiffy Speckles Petite Paper Pack, and I'm using the green. And then, so I die cut everything out of my Bristol Smooth paper and my little grassy borders as well here out of this Spiffy Speckles paper. So now for these two panels here, you do need to cut two of these two panels. I'm going to fold that little tab back, and then I'm bringing the rest of the panel forward. I'm going to do the same thing here, folding that little tab back and the panel forward. And I'm just using my bone folder just to press that out. And you can see how those two are going to butt up right against each other here. So I'm going to put a little bit of the Lawn Fawn 1/4 inch double-sided tape on each of those little tabs. And this is a double stick permanent tape. It's a nice heavy duty tape. And I'm going to make sure that it goes right edge to edge here on these little tabs. Just trimming away the excess. And now I'm going to remove the backing and butt those two up together just like that, and it lines up perfectly. So I'm just pressing that out really well just to make sure they're nice and secure. And then I'm going to grab the bone folder here just to press that crease one more time. Now you can see I have the little tabs on the back and 4 little panels on the front here. Now there is a score line on this grassy border, so I'm just going to fold that and use my bone folder again. And those are going to sit right there on those panels. So now with the Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide ink, I'm going to add a little bit of shadowing up there at the top of these grassy borders. And I'm just blending that out a little bit there, just to give it a little bit of a highlight at the top. And now for this panel, I wanted to do my sky, so I'm using squeezed lemonade and spiced marmalade. And I'm going to go ahead and apply that squeezed lemonade pretty much all over. I don't need it down where the grassy border is, so I'm from basically there up. And then for the spiced marmalade, I wanted it to be a little darker, the sky to be a little darker along that grassy border. So I'm adding a little bit there. I'm just blending it in. And then I'm coming back with the squeezed lemonade, and I'm going to blend those two colors together. And you can see there now you get a nice shadow above the grass there, a little bit of a darker color. And I did decide to add a little bit more here, just to darken it a bit more. So now that that's all set, I want to add a little bit of water. I'm taking my Distress Sprayer from Tim Holtz and I'm adding a little water to an acrylic block. And then with a wet brush, I'm just going to flick that water down onto this cardstock. The only reason I'm not spraying it directly from the sprayer is because sometimes the splotches are a little bit bigger than I want them. So in this case, I wanted kind of some tinier ones, so that's why I chose to do it this way. So I'm just quickly heat setting that with my heat gun so that I can glue down these two grassy borders. And I'm using my glue tube, and I'm just going to position those in place. And then I like to double check and just make sure it folds nicely after I glue and attach things. So now the happy birthday to you is from the Critter concert. And I'm going to stamp that on the right hand two panels. But I want to make sure none of the words land right on that crease. So I'm just separating it a little bit so that the happy birthday is on one side of the score line and the to you is on the other. I just thought it would stamp a little bit more cleanly that way. You can always cut the stamp in half if you want to as well, but I thought this was just as easy. So I went ahead and stamped that, and I used my stamp positioner to make sure that I lined it up properly. And now I went ahead and glued all my little turtles on that grassy border and all the little things that they're bringing to the party. The birthday cake, the present, the bowl of candy, and the birthday balloon. So we have everything attached here, and I just simply glued them down with the glue tube. I did not pop anything up because we want the inside of the card to be fairly flat. So you can see how cute those are. So now I'm going to add my little party hats. And again, I'm just gluing those down. And I just thought those were just so cute on these little turtles. So I went ahead and glued all the little party hats on. And now we have the panel all set for the inside of the card there. So now I did decide that I wanted it to look like they were singing Happy Birthday to You. So I grabbed going back to the Critter concert, I grabbed the little musical notes, and I'm going to stamp a few of those randomly here, just to make it look like they were singing. And I think those just add a little bit more interest to the sky there and make it a little bit more fun and whimsical. So now that we have that all set, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the card. This is a standard A2 size card, so it measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Again, I'm going back to the green paper from the Spiffy Speckles, and I'm going to take my outside in stitched rectangle stackables and die cut one of the largest panels from that. And then with the leftover green paper, I'm just going to cut a portion of this rectangle. And I want it to be the long way. And this is going to be my grassy border on the front of the card. So I figured I'd just cut this as long as I had the paper out. So we're going to set that aside. But for the inside of the card, we've got this large rectangle. And I did decide I wanted to do my sky first. So I'm going to go back to the same two colors we did on that panel for the inside of the card, the squeezed lemonade and the spiced marmalade. And we're going to do the exact same process. I put the squeezed lemonade all over, and then I'm adding this spiced marmalade down towards the bottom and blending those out. And I'm just using a piece of scrap paper there just to block the bottom part of the card because I didn't want that to get any ink on it. So I'm just trying to keep that area clean. Now I'm going back the same way, adding a little water to my acrylic block, and I'm going to spatter that just like we did before. And grabbing the paper towel and just blotting up that excess. So now that that's all set, and you can dry that again in between if you want there. I just set it aside to dry. And then I took that green panel for the lower part and I did all around the edges with the green ink, just like we did for the grassy border. So now I did decide that I would stamp that panel with the saying on it, and I placed it in the Misty stamp positioner because it's just easier to stamp it now while it's not attached to the card. And I'm inking it up the saying up with the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm stamping it sort of down towards the bottom section of that panel. And that sentiment says, "Hope you have an awesome day," and it's from the Critter concert as well. So now I'm just going to center that on this inside bottom section of my card and glue that down. So the next thing we're going to do is create the little pivot section of the card. So I took this piece that we die cut earlier and I'm folding it forward first and pressing it out with my bone folder. And then those two diagonal lines, I'm going to press those forward as well and press the creases out on that. And now I want to take it again and fold it backwards along that longer line there. And I'm just trying to break down the fibers of the paper a little bit here so that it will easily bend forward. So you want to kind of manipulate it with your hands a little bit and bring the whole thing forward till it collapses down flat. And then use your bone folder and just press those creases out and make sure that everything is pressed out nicely. And now you can see that this is going to create the little pivot section. Now we have these two little triangular areas at the top here, and we're going to put some 1/2-inch double-sided tape on both of those triangular areas, and you want to make sure you have plenty of it. I went end to end and just cut away the excess, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here. So again, we're just putting tape on those two little triangular areas. So now I want to take the point of this, and it's going to get lined up right on the center fold of our card. So I'm going to remove the backing from the tape on one side, and then I'm going to line this little point right up in the center of the card here, and I'm going to press that into place. And now I'm going to remove the backing on the tape from this side, and then I'm going to close the card, and that will pick up this little pivot portion of the card. So you want to press that out nice and secure, and now you can see that makes the pop-up section. So now on these two little panels you can see I have a little score line on either side, and so I'm going to go ahead and put tape right up to that score line on both sides. And again, you want to make sure you have it right end to end, just make sure that it holds in place. And so I'm just going to cut away the excess here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, placing that tape right up to that score line. Now I'm removing the backing from the tape. And now I want to take my little accordion panel, and I'm going to find the center on this pivot piece, which I don't know if you can see it, but there is a little marking on here that shows you where the center is. And I'm going to line up the center of this little accordion panel with that little score mark there. And then I'm just going to position it there and then press it into place. So I'm just folding the card shut here just to make sure everything is taped down properly. And you do want to open and close it quite a few times just to make sure the mechanism is working properly. So now I have my little clouds, and I'm going to go ahead and ink those up just a little bit. I wanted to put a little blue ink, so I'm using the tumbled glass just sort of along the bottom of each of these clouds. And I'm going to do that same thing for all of these. So now I'm going to attach my clouds to the top panel here. And again, I'm just using my glue. And I've glued all those in place, and you can see a few of them go over the edge. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut away any excess there. So now I have that grassy panel that we die cut before, and I also cut a second one, a full outside in stitch rectangle stackable in the large size for the panel on the front of the card. So we're going to take the stitched hillside borders and just put a little stitched edge along the top of that grassy border there. And so we'll have stitching on all four sides now. And we're going to run that through the die cut machine. And then I'm going back to the green ink we used before and doing the same exact thing with the top of the hillside border there, just adding a little bit of the green. And now we're going to do the sky, again, the exact same way that we did previously. Starting with the squeezed lemonade and then adding the spice marmalade and blending those two together. So now that that's all set, I'm going to go ahead and spatter that sky again the same as before, adding a little bit of water here and just spattering it down onto this cardstock. And I'm blotting off the excess. And now I can go ahead and attach this grassy piece here. This is for the front of our card. And I did want to keep the front of the card fairly simple because we have a lot going on inside. So now using the Misty, again, I'm going to go ahead and position. I have not glued anything down yet here. I just laid these pieces on here to see approximately where I wanted that saying to go. So I'm just going to move things around a little bit here until I get that where I want it. And again, I want happy birthday to you inside. So I'm going to stamp that here again with the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And now that we have that all set, I can go ahead and attach these pieces to the card. And for the front of the card, I thought I would pop up the little turtle, just to give it a little bit of dimension on the front. And the same thing with the little present. And somewhere along the way, I lost his little party hat. So I did find it in the end. Didn't even realize it wasn't on there. So at the end, the final photo, you'll see the little party hat on this little turtle here. So then I went ahead and I added some of that tumbled glass to the bottom of each of these three little clouds here as well. And I finished gluing on the rest of those clouds. And now we want to go back to the little musical notes and just stamp a few of those here as well. So now that can get attached right to the front of our card. And I am going to go back to the tape for this because I do want to make sure it stays in place. You could use the glue as well if you want a little more time to move it around. But I just decided to use the tape here, so I'm going to go ahead and attach that. It is a little bulky, so it takes a minute or two here to get it lined up properly. Then just make sure you press it all over and get a nice good adhesion there. And then now I want to take the Spectrum Noir sparkle pen and I'm going to add just a little bit of sparkle to the presents, the little balloon there, and do make sure you clean it off between colors here because again, remember these are water-based inks, so you are picking up a little color when you're using the Spectrum Noir pen. I'm adding a little bit here to the little bowl. And then I'll add a little bit to the frosting on the cake as well. And the candles. So now you can see the finished card here. And you can see that my turtle, I still didn't find his little party hat, but again, at the end, you will see it on the final card. And there it is, that cute little pop-up. I just love this little pivot design. It's fun, and you can see how simple and easy it is to make. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thank you so much for visiting me today, and have a great day. Bye-bye.